The political landscape of the Levant has always been precarious, but in recent months Syria and Lebanon have begun to show new and alarming signs of instability. The infection of unrest, spiralling outward from Gaza from the war, has now fused with local rivalries, sectarian fault lines, and the hand of Tehran. What we are witnessing is not merely regional turbulence, but the possible unravelling of an entire post-war order. Beginning with Syria, in a development that would once have been unimaginable, the United States has suspended its Caesar Act sanctions and opened its doors to the new Syrian government led by Bashar al-Assad, a man who until recently was on America's own terrorist list. Al-Assad's rapid transformation from jihadist commander to statesman reflects a kind of desperate pragmatism. Washington, exhausted by endless conflict and eager for a foothold in a fragmented Middle East, has decided that an ex-extremist who can deliver stability is preferable to a vacuum that Iran or Russia might fill. And of course, they're right. Trump's remarks during the White House meeting, calling al-Assad a fighter and a young, attractive guy, may sound flippant, but they mark a profound policy shift. The US now sees in Damascus not a pariah, but a potential partner. Yet the price of this realignment may be steep. It risks whitewashing human rights abuses and legitimizing a regime whose grip on power still depends on militia violence and sectarian cleansing. Al-Assad may have rebranded himself as a reformer, but killings of Alawite minorities and clashes with Druze militias continue. Iran, meanwhile, has not left the field. Its Quds force retains deep entanglement with what remains of Syria's security apparatus. Tehran will not quietly surrender its corridor from Iraq through Syria to Lebanon. And that brings us to Lebanon, the weakest link in this increasingly brittle chain. The country teeters on the edge of war once again, just before the Pope arrives. US envoy Tom Barrack's ultimatum to Beirut to disarm Hezbollah by the end of November or face Israeli action may be a bluff, but it's a dangerous one. The Lebanese state, already divided between President Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, is paralyzed. Salam insists on confronting Hezbollah. Aoun fears that doing so would splinter the army. It's a microcosm of Lebanon itself, a state so divided it can neither govern nor collapse with dignity. Israel, for its part, has resumed heavy airstrikes in southern Lebanon. The near-daily bombardments, accompanied now by evacuation maps and warnings, suggest that Tel Aviv no longer trusts the ceasefire it signed last year. Hezbollah claims it has given up 85% of its arms in the south, but it will not disarm entirely. Its deputy leader, Naim Qassem, insists that the movement will retain its weapons north of the Litani River, where the ceasefire does not apply. Israel will never accept this. The logic of confrontation, once reawakened, feeds itself. But beneath these visible tensions lies a deeper rot. The Lebanese state, both under internal and external pressure, is attempting to disarm not only Hezbollah, but also Palestinian factions in refugee camps. This has revived traumatic memories of Sabra, Shatila, and Ain al-Hilwa. Disarmament is being presented as sovereignty, but for many Palestinians it's another form of dispossession. Without civil rights, the right to work, to own property, to live without checkpoints, disarmament becomes a euphemism for disempowerment. Lebanon cannot claim sovereignty by disarming the powerless while leaving systemic discrimination untouched. Iran, of course, profits from this confusion. Every time Lebanon weakens, Tehran's influence through Hezbollah strengthens. Every time the Palestinian cause is reduced to a security file, Iran steps forward as its self-appointed patron. The Gaza war thus has transformed into a wider contest for influence stretching from the Mediterranean to the Euphrates. Is not simply about rockets or borders, but about who will define resistance and who will define order. Meanwhile, Hannibal Gaddafi's quiet release from Lebanese detention after 10 years, paid for significantly by Libya's Tripoli-based government, offers a glimpse of the transactional diplomacy now shaping the region. Everything from prisoners to peace has become negotiable. What makes the current moment so volatile is that all actors, Israel, Hezbollah, Syria, Iran, and the United States, are improvising. None has a clear strategy beyond survival. Lebanon's government cannot control its territory. Israel cannot silence Hezbollah without destroying Beirut. Iran cannot sustain its proxy network indefinitely under sanctions and economic strain. Yet every miscalculation draws the region closer to the brink. The infection of instability from Gaza has now spread through the arteries of the Middle East. The Caesar Act suspension, the strikes in Tyre and Nabatea, the divisions in Beirut, the silence of Damascus, all are symptoms of the same malaise, a collapsing regional order in which moral clarity has been traded for expedience. And if there is a path out, it lies in realism without cynicism, recognizing that neither disarmament imposed by force nor alliances built on amnesia will deliver peace. Stability in the Levant will depend on states reclaiming legitimacy, not merely territory, and on regional powers accepting that repression cannot substitute for governance. The real question now is not whether Lebanon or Syria will fall into chaos, but whether they can rise from it as sovereign nations, or whether they will remain, as they so often have been, the staging ground for someone else's war.